Welcome to my channel. This is Captain Binoy Varakil, Assistant Professor, Department of English, St. Joseph's College, Devgiri, Kozhikode. We continue our lecture series on the course Language and Linguistics of the 5th semester students of BA English Language and Literature of the colleges of University of Calicut, and we are focusing on the 4th module of this course, and this module is on the syntax. And in this series of lectures we will be discussing syntactic models, immediate constituent analysis, then phrase structure, grammar, transformative generative grammar, kernel sentences and transforms, deep structure, surface structure, and some other transformations. Then of course passivization, coordination and subordination. We just began the series of lectures the other day, and in the first lecture we discussed the first topic in this module, that was of course types of phrases, and we saw that there are 8 types of phrases. And today let us just begin the second lecture in this series. In this lecture we discuss clauses. Let's understand what a clause is. A clause is a group of words that contain a subject and a verb that have a relationship. This relationship is crucial. A clause conveys information about what that subject is doing rather than simply being a random grouping of words. Say for example, we have the example, Ray Matthews plays piano in the hotel. So this is an example for a clause. Here we have a subject and a predicate. Ray Matthews is the subject. That is of course the part of the sentence where we have the doer of the action. Ray Matthews is the doer of the action. What does he do? Plays. The action is plays, that is the verb. And what does he play? Piano in the hotel. So it is a clause. Here we have a very crucial relationship between the subject and the predicate. And now that it is a clause which can give us a complete meaning, we can say that this is a principal clause, or this is an independent clause, or we can just conclude the fact that sentences are, or simple sentences are, independent clauses. Or we can come to the fact that a clause is of course a sentence, or a sentence is a clause, and often in a complete sentence there will be an independent clause or a principal clause. And as we discuss the clause, we have to understand the fact that there are 2 types of clauses, the independent clauses and the dependent clauses. And now we have to just discuss in detail what are dependent clauses. So independent clause is a clause which can convey a meaning all alone. Dependent clauses, they can't convey a meaning on its own. They depend on the very independent clause, and hence we call them dependent clauses, or dependent clause, or subordinate clause. Now we understand the fact that a sentence is a clause which is of course complete, and let us look at a sentence in detail. What is a sentence? Here in this slide, of course, we have a comparison between our first lecture and the second lecture, that is of course clause and phrase. Let's look at this slide. Afterwards, of course, we'll just go for a discussion of sentences. A clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. Independent clause makes sense on its own as a sentence. I went to school. It's an independent clause and it is a sentence. Dependent clauses doesn't make sense on its own as a sentence. Although I wasn't feeling well, I went to school. Although I wasn't feeling well, I went to school. Look at that. I went to school is the independent clause and it is complete on its own. But although I wasn't feeling well doesn't give us a complete idea. And now, what is a phrase? A group of words without a subject, verb, a component. Noun phrase, best friend, verb phrase, was working, adjective phrase, very pretty, adverb phrase, really slowly, prepositional phrase, in the bin, etc. Now we continue our discussion and we have to come to discuss what is a sentence. We know that a sentence can be defined as the largest purely grammatical unit in a language. So, a sentence is a group of words which have a subject and a predicate and which is arranged in a particular order and which give us a complete idea. And we know that there are 4 types of sentences. They are assertive sentence, imperative sentence, interrogative sentence, and exclamatory sentence. Let us discuss all these 4 kinds or types of sentences in detail. What is an assertive sentence? An assertive sentence contains statements, or you can say that assertive sentences are statements such as it rains heavily. It is a statement. Assertive sentences are statements, right? And there are statements which are positive and negative. So you can say that we have assertive sentences which are affirmative and assertive sentences which are negative. And we can say an example, I read a novel yesterday. I read a novel yesterday is an example for an affirmative sentence or a positive sentence. And sentence, I did not go to the beach last Sunday is an example for negative sentence. Now we have imperative sentences. What are imperative sentences? Imperative sentences express a command, a request, or a prayer. Say, we have a sentence like get out, come in. We understand that get out is an order. You get out, that is the meaning. So also, come in, you come in. Okay, so these are orders or commands. So imperative sentences are all commands, requests, and prayers. Now let's look at another example, which is a request. Please shut the door. Could you please help me? These are all requests. And now we have prayers. May God bless you. May you be strong. May you be a success. All these are prayers and wishes, and imperative sentences express commands, requests, and prayers. Now we have the third type of sentences. They are interrogative sentences. We understand that the very term, the very word interrogative means to question. So Obviously, interrogative sentences are questions, and there are different types of, or rather different kinds of questions. We can say that interrogative sentences can be WH questions on one side and yes or no questions on the other side. Say, what are WH questions? WH questions are questions that begin with who, what, when, why, where, how, etc. Okay? So, why didn't you buy the book? How did you do this? Who are you? Where were you yesterday? Alright, look at that. So all these questions begin with a word which has WH in it. So they are WH questions. And now we have yes or no questions. Yes or no questions are interrogative sentences or questions which have the answer either yes or no. Have you seen Gopal? The answer can be yes or no. Did you go there? The answer can be yes or no. Do you have a pen? The answer can be yes or no. So we understand that interrogative sentences can be questions which are either WH questions or yes or no questions. And now we come to the fourth type of sentence. They are called exclamatory sentences. So what are exclamatory sentences? Exclamatory sentences express strong feelings such as wonder, surprise, shock, or anger. Say, we have an example. What a splendid idea! What a splendid idea! We are just surprised that it is a splendid idea. What a splendid idea! What a rainy day! We are so shocked, or rather we are so surprised that it's a very rainy day. What a rainy day! Wow, it's delicious. That's again an exclamation. Oh, it is really very, very delicious. Wow, it's delicious. So all this is expression of wonder, surprise, or even shock, right? Alas, he passed away. Alas, he died. It's a shock, right? Shock. And it could be again something like great joy or happiness, like hurrah, we won the match. These are all expressions of exclamation. So with that we can come to the end of our second lecture. In this lecture we discussed what a clause is. We know what an independent clause is. We also know what a dependent clause is. We know the fact that independent clauses are also called principal clauses, and a simple sentence is a very good example for an independent clause. And there are subordinate clauses. Subordinate clauses are clauses that depend on independent clauses, and we have four kinds of sentences: the assertive sentence, the imperative sentence, the interrogative sentence, and the exclamatory sentences. Now I give you an assignment. Each of you can write down clauses, dependent clauses, independent clauses, and different examples for types of sentences. Assertive. Maybe you can write 5 to 10 sentences for assertive sentence, imperative sentence, interrogative sentence, and exclamatory sentence. Therefore, of course, you become a master of all these topics. Thank you so much for listening. May God bless you.